Hey guys, it's Tank School. Back to school for Tank School. Episode 3 is Understanding Tank Damage. And I'm also going to talk about the main battle tank's main gun as well. I'm going to cover 4 topics. 4 topics are 1. I'm going to talk about the basics of tank damage. We get that. 2, I'm going to talk about how reactive armor plays into this. I talked a little bit about it in the last episode. We're going to talk about it some more. 3, understand the dynamics of the main battle tank's main gun and certain applications with it as it relates to RPGs and SMOs. And then 4, practical ways that you, the viewer, can improve your aim with the main battle tank's main gun in pubs and elsewhere. How to improve yourself, some practice methods, if you will. Let's go right into this. So first off, the basic tank's damage. Well, I'm talking about main battle tank here, so let's just remember that for right now. Although a lot of this applies to the IFVs as well, and will certainly apply to the armored kill vehicles as they come out. But I'm talking about main battle tank stuff for right now. 1, main battle tank's front part of its tank, the front of it. This is like the turret. This is the front of it. This front part takes equal damage, whereas this tank's sides and rear, they take variable damage. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is what we see in this graphic here. This way. Excuse me. The angle of attack of the projectile, whether it be a main battle tank round hitting our main battle tank, whether it's perhaps an RPG or a SMA, or even other types of projectiles as well, like a TV guided missile. The angle of attack, which is where it hits it, is going to significantly determine how much damage that tank will take. This variable damage applies both the sides and the rear, and the rule of thumb is that the more shallow the angle it is of the given projectile that hits it, the less damage it does. What do I mean by this? Let's look at this graphic. What does this graphic say? This graphic says that, I'm going to just go over here, for 0.45 to 135 to 180, which is to say that if your projectile, if you're shooting an engaged enemy tank, if your projectile hits the tank's sides or hits the tank's rear at a 45 or less, or 45 degree angle or less impact, it is going to do a minimum amount of damage. In this case, this graph says 22. It says that if you hit anywhere between 60 to 120, which is to say that if it hits basically within this section here, it's going to do 26.6. If it does 75 to 105, which is basically, right, all of this stuff right here, it's going to do roughly 31.3. These are for the, actually I'm talking about the sides. I'm drawing on the rear, but you get the idea. And then 90, it does maximum damage. These aren't set numbers. These are actually variable numbers that only increase as you get up onto a more and more perpendicular angle. So you get a perpendicular shot, say this is a tank, this is the front of the tank is my fingertips. If I get a perpendicular shot, I'm going to do maximum damage in the sides and rear if I am able to hit at that 90-degree angle. Whereas the more shallow I go, I'm going to go this way, more shallow I go, the less damage I take until I hit a threshold. In this case, the 45-degree or 135-degree threshold, because you get 135, 45, and less, it's going to do a minimum damage. This is so important to understand. So important to understand because understanding where you are relative to where your enemy is allows you to position yourself to minimize the amount of damage that you'll take. Because remember, unlike every other vehicle in the game with the main battle tank, I can pivot in place without having to move forward backwards. I have to push that left or right key. And I start shifting and pivoting back and forth, just like I'm doing in my chair. It's so critical to know that. Now, this also illustrates one more thing. I'm going to draw on this for a bit. It doesn't matter where on the sides or where in the rear you hit. It's all about the angle. So in this case, it says that I'll take 36 damage if I do a 90-degree hit. Let's just say this is sort of the side, but it's sort of the front side. Whereas if I'll only do 22 damage if I hit the rear, but at a really shallow angle, which makes sense. It doesn't matter which part of the tank you hit on the side. It's all going to do equal amounts of damage. I shouldn't use that. I should probably use something a little bit more. I should like this, and I can maybe say X, 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 because they're all equal. in terms of where they hit. It all matters with that angle attack. Now, for you observant viewers, this is from Synthic, by the way. If you guys, other way around, I got my angles screwed up. This is from Synthic, by the way. And it's not on their website anymore. Now, some of you are going to say, actually, I'll make a prediction right now. In 2 or 3 months, I'm going to get a barrage of comments. I may even get some in the next few days. And they're going to say, daskro, these numbers are wrong. You don't take this much damage when you get hit at this degree angle at this side. You're wrong. And because these numbers are wrong, it means that you're wrong, which means this video is shit. And we shouldn't listen to you. Well, let me tell you this. I have updated the numbers as such. But you know what's going to happen? In 2 or 3 months when the Armored Kill expansion comes out, these numbers are going to change again. These numbers are going to change again. And I'm not going to update this video to reflect these new numbers. I don't care. I really don't care what these numbers are. What I care about is the basic dynamics of how the tank takes damage. This stuff right here, the angles and where I will take minimum amounts of damage versus maximum damage is so much more important than knowing, oh, it takes 24 versus 26 damage or whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. This kind of high-level theory craft of really focusing on those little numbers only applies after you have mastered every other aspect of the tank. And I'll tell you that getting even up to that level is super hard. It really is. And so we're not going to get into all the nuances and deluge of specific scenarios of, well, it's really important to know that we take this much damage into this area because the timing of the map says that the two tanks will hit each other at this period, which means that the enemy tank will hit another enemy tank at this angle, whatever. I don't care about that. I want you guys to know about this angle dynamic stuff. I want you guys to know about that. If you guys don't know about that, then we're in trouble, because this stuff is by far the most important. Now, oh yeah, I have one more thing on here. You'll notice that I have this asterisk here. What do I mean by that? I don't have an asterisk in the bottom. What do I mean by that asterisk? What I mean is that there's a glitch out there. Now, some of you may know about it, some of you may not know about it. I had suspected it for a while, but didn't really look into it until probably a few weeks ago, and then found out that there's a big outcry for it. And me as a tanker, I should have known about this, a bit more vocal about it. But given how I play, I hadn't really experienced it that much, maybe once or twice. Here's what I'm talking about. The M1 Abrams has a glitch. And here's the scenario. Let's say there's 2 tanks. This is the M1 Abrams, and this is a T90. They are driving towards each other head-on. Right? No. T90 fires his main gun. Main gun hits that M1 Abrams in the front. But it doesn't do front damage. Instead, it does rear damage. It does rear damage at 9 degrees. It does maximum damage, which means that it disables the Abrams tank, and the Abrams tank stops, and is basically, about done. And the battle's over. And T90 got a one-shot disable on him. This is a glitch that the DICE developers know about, and it's saying that is a problem, and under certain scenarios, it can actually be really crippling for the M1 Abrams tank. That's why I have the asterisk there. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because, let's go to the next section, if I can. Here we go. What's the deal with reactive armor? So, reactive armor, again, to reiterate, works as follows. It blocks 1 volley of damage. Main battle tank has it on the sides and rear, which means it has, the tank has 4 sides, and it's on 2 sides in the rear, which means it has 3 panels. IFV has 4 panels. The angle of attack is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you got a really shallow angle hit on that reactive or really, or a perpendicular hit on it. It doesn't matter, because it's gonna mitigate that damage completely, whatever it may be. Lasing the target doesn't help either. And so let's say you are playing as a squad with your friend who's at recon playing SoFlam. He gets that SoFlam down. He locks on that enemy tank. He says, buddy, I have locked on to the enemy tank. You have this opportunity that since you have Javelin equipped to lock on him, you double damage. Get that non-line of sight hit and do a one-shot disable, if not kill that tank outright. And so you're so excited, you get that Javelin out, you aim it, you see it, you are good to go, you fire it. You see that missile fall in the air, non-line of sight hit, it hits that tank, and nothing happens because the reactive armor stops it. It doesn't matter if it's lased or not, because the reactive armor stops that damage. Sorry. That's an intense story. Anyway, so the radar can be repaired in a few seconds. So if you get out and if you're at 100%, you gotta be at 100% first. You can repair that panel after a few seconds. It'll go back. And regarding the M1 Abrams tanklets I just described a few minutes ago, if that same scenario takes place, T90, M1 Abrams, T90 fires, M1 Abrams takes a hit. It actually takes the hit in the rear at 90 degrees, but the reactive armor's in the rear, and so the reactive armor goes away, right? Now, when the M1 Abrams stops moving, stops going forward, and then takes hits, when they take hits, the M1 Abrams won't take that same kind of rear damage hit. It'll just be regular from that point on. But when it's moving forward, especially if it's turbo, that takes place. But if you have reactive armor going, you're going to mitigate that damage. And from a one-on-one tank battle perspective, that's okay because you're not planning on showing your rear to them in the first place. And so it's the chances of you losing that rear armor in the battle may not be that big of a deal. And so if anything, you may have actually mitigated some damage versus if it would have been that glitch didn't exist, and you would have taken 20 plus damage from taking that front tank hit. Anyway, that's the deal with reactive armor. Something to remember. Now for projectiles like the IFV main gun, the AP rounds, guided missiles, it's a bit more complicated. So AP rounds and the 20mm cannons actually go through reactive armor. They actually, for whatever reason, they go through it without it deflating the damage, which makes IV actually very lethal against the tanks. Surprisingly so. And if you want to check out some videos where some guys do some tests on how the guided missile or how the javelin engages the reactive armor from different angles. I believe DaSquirrelNuts and Jackfrags did some testing months ago. You can check them out in the links below. I'm not going to go into it because it's really advanced theorycraft, and in my view, in practicality, knowing how the guided missile is going to react what side of reactive armor is very it's good to know, but it's not something that is essential. There's so many more variables related to dodging guided missiles that which reactive armor panel it takes you out or takes out is not that important to know about, relatively speaking. Let's go into the next topic, dynamics of the main battle tank gun. Now, the main battle tank gun is a lot like throwing a baseball in 4 different ways. 1, they both arc as they travel. They have bullet drop. The guns in Battlefield 3 have bullet drop as well, but the tank shell, and to a much greater degree, the RPG and small rounds, have a huge arc. So when you fire it, I'll draw this out, and you want to hit a target, you're going to have to aim really, really high because it arcs like that. Whereas with a regular rifle in the game, you may shoot your rifle. Let me get this out. Same scenario. And you may shoot your rifle, and basically you'll may have to aim a little bit high. But the arc, it isn't nearly there in comparison. 2, they take a noticeable distance to hit their target in terms of time. They have a long time of flight because they take a while. The RPG and small are really slow. The tank shell's a bit faster, but they're both slow. So you have to account for that if you're shooting a target at distance, especially one that's moving. 3, they require some lead time because of that. If you're hitting a moving target, you're going to have to account for not just the movement of that moving target in whatever trajectory it's going, but you need to also account for how long it's going to take for that tank shell or that RPG to get to that enemy target. 4, and it requires even more lead time, or at least more extreme angles and more difficult mental calculations. You're not really doing a Pythagorean's theorem trying to find that hypotenuse so you can figure out how much distance you need to cover, and then nothing like that. Although if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I will post some videos below where I talk about where I link will show you some old Navy videos of how they used to do those kinds of those calculations through a mechanical computer, so that when they would have a battleship, the battleship could engage other battleships or capital ships at huge distances while both were traveling different directions and accounting for the wind and everything like that. It's really, really cool stuff. Check it out below. It's real long, but it's really enjoyable if you're into that sort of wonky academic kind of stuff. Anyway, so when you're moving, they're moving, you're going to account for that as well. Again, it's like throwing a baseball. Throwing a baseball into a little basket or a big basket is pretty easy, right? You get a little bit of air. Now, if you are running in one direction and you have your friend running in another direction and you have to throw that baseball at them, you have to sort of feel it out and figure out, okay, well, I gotta lead him a bit because he's going this way, and he's also, increasing the range that I have relative to him. And I know the baseball travels at this speed if I throw it really hard, and that's how I'm going to be able to get it. That kind of stuff is something that you have to sort of develop over time when you want to improve your tank skills. And so successfully hitting your target, it requires you to hit your target in a variety of conditions. It's not just, we're gonna do head-on battles. It's not just like that. There's so many different scenarios you're going to be engaged in. You can be engaged in at short distance, at long distance, at distance while you and them are both moving, while only one of you are moving and he's moving, or vice versa. It requires you to practice these kind of things. And so let's go into what the practice actually means for it. Let's go into it. And here we go. Sorry. Ways to practice the shooting. The first one's called the lumberjack because you're going to start in Caspian border. You're going to get in that tank on RUUS, whatever it may be. Maybe join a fast respawn server. I want you to drive that tank down and outside of your base, and I want you to go 25 meters or so from the nearest tree. I want you to shoot that tree. I want you to chop it down like a lumberjack, and then when you get done reloading after 4 seconds, I want you to shoot another one that's close by. I want you to lumberjack all the trees. All the trees. I want to be barren. And when this gets too easy for you, if you're like, oh, this is stupid, I'm not having fun with this at all, I want you to sort of increase the distance, maybe to 50 meters. The same thing. Still easy? I want you to now, maybe go back to 25, but I want you to now push your forward button on your tank and also try to engage those tanks while you're moving at regular speed, not at turbo, just regular speed. And I want you to keep on shooting those trees over and over again, every 4 seconds. Every 4 seconds. Every 4 seconds. And as you do that, you're going to find out that, oh, well, as I increase my distance and as I'm traveling, I do have to account for the speed of the tank shell, and you account for the distance that I'm going against and what speed I'm going forward, and you're going to start to feel it out. And as this becomes easy or easier, add more to it. Do it turbo. And then do it while you're in turbo and on a hill. And you're going different angles, and so you have different trajectories now that you have to compensate for because your tank's now in a different position. We're going to keep on doing that. And it's not do it until you get it right. It's do it until you get it wrong. I don't know how many of you actually know what that. I've heard that phrase before. What that means is that if you accomplish it, and you accomplish it 9 out of 10 times, but you miss once, you can start over. You need to keep on doing it until you get it wrong, because that's what makes great players. It's those that can replicate fantastic skill, the ability to shoot all these trees down from distance while moving real fast. Because the length of the width of those trees is what the width of a person in the game, an enemy. Which means that when you're actually engaging guys in real life, or not in real life, excuse me, when you're engaging enemies in the game, you can actually shoot them with your tank shell and kill them outright. It's that easy. It's not hard to do. You just got to practice. And after you're done that lumberjack, you're going to be hungry. You should probably go to Denny's. Get a lumberjack slam. It is 2 buttermilk pancakes. It's a slice of grilled ham. It's 2 sausage links. It's 2 bacon strips. It's 2 eggs. You got hash browns. You got a side of bread of some sort. It's 1,100 calories plus. You're going to need that though from all the typing and moving the clicks and shit like that. That's where you gotta get that breakfast. The next one of how you go about doing this, I'm gonna move this back, is the I'm an oil man and a family man. This is my son. This is a There We Blood reference for those that got that. This is very similar. You jump on Operation Firestorm, and then you drive 100 meters from the small pipelines, which are basically little things that if you shoot them, they blow up. And I want you to engage them 100 meters. And if you hit it, it's going to blow up. If you miss it, but you're close, the fence is going to start being destroyed as the tank shell goes through it. This is a exercise for you to understand that there is a drop with that given shell, and because of that, you need to compensate for it. You need to aim higher. And I want you to keep on practicing it. I want you to keep on trying to replicate that over and over again. Once you get done with all those different those oil drum things, not oil drums, but sort of like oil valve points, whatever they may be. I want you to keep on engaging anything else in the map that's 100 to 200 meters in distance. I want you to get a feel for what kind of elevation compensation you have to do to engage targets at that distance. And then once you get used to that, I want you to start driving around and hitting targets while you're moving at those kind of distances, because then you're going to be accounting for not just you going a certain direction, but the time of flight for the given projectile that you're shooting, and you also have to compensate for the fact that you may have to change your angle, because as you're driving, you may need to compensate for your turret moving around. When you do that, you will eventually sort of take it to heart to the point where you'll be able to not even consciously think about where you need to aim to hit certain targets while you're moving. Operation Firestorm has some really good positions on B and C, where you have these big warehouse buildings. Each warehouse side has basically 2 rows of breakable walls, and anywhere between 2 to 4 columns of breakable walls for a given side. And if you are engaging those walls at 200 to 300 meters, and if you can do that and say yourself like you're playing 8-ball, where you say, I'm going to engage the top left wall. And if you can go, if you're driving full speed, even turbo over hills, and hit that top left side of that wall at that kind of distance, you're going to be able to hit a tank at that kind of distance easy. And knowing how to do that, and not just knowing how to do it, but actually taking it to heart, practicing it, same thing as I said before. It's about doing it until you get it wrong, not doing it until you get it right. Doing it until you get it wrong. You keep on doing that, you are going to improve your tank shots tenfold by practicing these kind of things. Now, you'll say, daskro, you are advocating bad behavior in pub servers, and I'm not saying that you should dedicate all your time, an hour's worth of playing time to doing just these 2 exercises. Instead, it's, I'm leaving the base, and I'm just driving. Well, that's maybe 20 seconds of driving before I actually engage an enemy. Maybe I should just spend some time and try to hit some moving targets, try to hit some trees, lumberjack them down, or try to hit some oil things, or hit a wall, or whatever it may be from long distance, see if I can make those shots. Almost like you're playing in basketball, playing the game Pig. There's different names for Pig, but it's the idea that you take a trick shot, and then the other person has to do a trick shot, and so on and so forth. That kind of thing, by yourself. When you can start to do that and replicate it, and you'll be able to start to hit things that you otherwise had only dreamed of hitting. Hitting down enemy aircraft, hitting down enemy helicopters. It becomes super easy once you start figuring out how that operates. I'm way over time, and so episode 4, which is the next episode, is the power maneuver. Many of these things that I talked about are going to be so critical to understand when talking about maneuver, and you'll see why. So I think I'm done. I'll see you guys later.